They told me to ignore it, but I couldn't. I was perched on the observation spire of the Quipu Council's Sentinel Array, staring across the vast lattice of the Supercluster when the anomaly flickered across my instruments. At first, I thought it was interference, a flicker in the sensor web, a statistical ghost. But the pattern persisted, steady, intentional, a galaxy, one that shouldn't exist. My name is Xal'kor, and I have been watching the cosmos for 14,000 cycles, what your species might call years, though time flows differently when you perceive reality through quantum resonance rather than mere photons. I am a sentinel of the Quipu Council, one of 700 observers tasked with monitoring the delicate balance of our supercluster. For my entire existence, I have cataloged the birth and death of stars, measured the flow of dark matter through galactic filaments, tracked the slow dance of gravity that shapes reality itself. The universe follows patterns, elegant, predictable, mathematically beautiful patterns that my ancestors have studied for millions of cycles. But this galaxy was breaking the patterns. It pulsed with energy, not in chaotic disarray, but in perfect rhythm, a signal that suggested design, intelligence, or something else entirely. My sensory appendages twitched involuntarily as I isolated the source, a dim, unremarkable cluster at the fringe of the supercluster, barely visible even to our most sensitive instruments, ordinary on the surface, extraordinary in behavior. The Quipu Supercluster is vast beyond the comprehension of most species, a web of galaxies spanning over 1 billion light-years, containing more stars than there are thoughts in 1 trillion minds. My people have observed its slow evolution for eons, documenting the cosmic processes that govern the formation and destruction of entire galactic civilizations. We are watchers, not participants, observers, not interferers. This is the first law of our kind, to witness without altering, to understand without disturbing the natural flow of cosmic evolution. But this anomaly challenged everything we thought we understood about natural flow. I ran my scans again, channeling energy through the crystalline matrices that served as both my tools and extensions of my consciousness. Matter distribution, impossible. Energy output, contradictory. Stellar formation rates, deliberately orchestrated. Everything was anomalous. The galaxy appeared to be approximately 12 billion cycles old, formed in the early epochs when the universe was still young and violent. But its structure spoke of careful cultivation rather than chaotic collapse. Spiral arms maintained perfect mathematical ratios. Star formation proceeded in waves that created harmonic resonances across electromagnetic spectra. Even the distribution of heavy elements followed patterns that maximized the potential for complex chemistry. I could hear the Council's voice echoing through my neural link, the collective wisdom of my peers flowing through quantum channels that connected our consciousness across the supercluster. Do not pursue minor anomalies, Xal'kor. Focus on the patterns that matter. Document the known. Catalog the expected. Minor? Minor is what you call a particle fluctuation in the cosmic microwave background. Minor is an unexpected supernova or a rogue planet wandering between stars. This galaxy was whispering secrets that could rewrite our understanding of cosmic evolution itself. I diverted power from auxiliary sensor arrays, focusing the full capacity of our observation network on this single point of light at the edge of mapped space. The deeper I probed, the stranger it became. Stars formed in sequences that shouldn't exist, like a dance choreographed by minds that understood the fundamental forces of creation better than we did. Gas clouds shimmered in wavelengths that my ancestors had never recorded in their vast databases. Electromagnetic emissions followed mathematical progressions that spoke of intentional design rather than natural chaos. And at the galactic core, a pulse, subtle yet unmistakable, as if the galaxy itself were aware of my observation and responding to it. I leaned deeper into the interface, my consciousness merging with the sensor web, until I could feel the vibration of distant starlight through my quantum-sensitive neural pathways. The anomaly was alive, not conscious in the way that biological entities possess consciousness, but alive in a way that defied the sterile mechanics of physics I had been taught to revere. This galaxy was behaving like a single vast organism. Hours passed in my focused observation, or perhaps millennia. When you exist partially outside linear time, the distinction becomes meaningless. My people measure existence in cycles of cosmic significance rather than the brief flickers that mark individual stellar lifespans. But regardless of temporal measurement, I found myself unable to break away from this mystery. The more I studied the anomalous galaxy, the more convinced I became that it represented something unprecedented in our collective observations. In all the millions of cycles that the Quipu Council had monitored cosmic evolution, we had never encountered a galactic structure that seemed to respond to observation, that appeared to be actively maintaining its own organization against the entropy that governed all natural systems. A signal of this magnitude demanded investigation, even if it meant violating the protocols that had governed my species for eons. I compiled my observations into encrypted data packets and transmitted them to my peers in the Observation Council, hoping to find allies who shared my growing conviction that this discovery warranted immediate attention. Silence followed. My colleagues had other duties, other sectors of the supercluster to monitor. They dealt with the predictable phenomena of cosmic evolution, the birth and death of ordinary stars, the collision of normal galaxies, the slow accretion of matter around conventional black holes. They didn't feel the pulse I sensed resonating through the quantum foam, the rhythm that seemed to synchronize with something deep in my own consciousness. They couldn't see what I saw, evidence that the universe contained intelligences capable of engineering on galactic scales. Alone with my discovery, I made the decision that would define the remainder of my existence. I would go. I would journey to the edge of the supercluster, closer to this anomaly, and discover what secrets it held. I would violate the first law if necessary, because some truths were more important than the comfort of distant observation. The journey would be perilous. The outer regions of the Quipu Supercluster were filled with hazards that had claimed observers before me. Energy fields generated by dying hypergiant stars, rogue black holes that wandered between galaxies like cosmic predators, unstable wormhole networks that could transport a traveler to regions of space-time where the laws of physics operated according to different parameters. But none of those dangers mattered compared to the mystery that called to me across impossible distances. The anomalous galaxy's pulse had become a beacon, promising revelations that could transform my species' understanding of cosmic purpose and design. I activated my personal vessel, the Lumen's Reach, a craft grown rather than built, its crystalline hull interfaced directly with my neural pathways so that ship and pilot functioned as a single entity. The vessel had been my companion for thousands of cycles, an extension of my consciousness that allowed me to navigate the dangerous spaces between galaxies while maintaining the sensory connections necessary for detailed observation. As I synchronized the ship's quantum drives with my own biorhythms, I felt the familiar sensation of consciousness expansion that came with interstellar travel. My awareness stretched across light years, encompassing the local gravitational topology, the distribution of dark matter streams, the electromagnetic signatures of nearby stellar phenomena. The anomaly's signal grew sharper as I began my approach, thrumming through the ship's sensors like the heartbeat of something vast and patient. What had been a statistical curiosity at extreme range was becoming a symphony of organized energy that defied every model of natural galactic behavior in our databases. And then, as I crossed the threshold between monitored space and the unknown regions beyond, something extraordinary happened. The rhythm shifted. What had been a steady pulse became something more complex, not random energy fluctuations or the chaotic signals of stellar formation processes, but a deliberate pattern, a sequence of electromagnetic bursts that followed mathematical relationships too precise to be natural, too sophisticated to be accidental. It was a message. Something within that distant galaxy had detected my approach and was actively communicating, using the entire galactic structure as a transmission array. The implications were staggering. Intelligence operating on scales that dwarfed entire star systems. Technology that could manipulate matter and energy across hundreds of thousands of light years. Awareness that spanned cosmic distances. As the supercluster stretched infinitely before me, its billions of galaxies spread across space like points of light in an incomprehensible three-dimensional mandala, I realized the enormity of what I was attempting. If this anomaly was what I suspected, evidence of cosmic engineering by intelligences beyond our comprehension, then my investigation would rewrite everything my species believed about the universe, about creation, about the possibility of intentional design and cosmic evolution. The message from the anomalous galaxy continued its complex rhythm, and I found myself beginning to detect patterns within patterns, structures of meaning that suggested not just intelligence, but intelligence of a type we had never encountered. This was not the crude, electromagnetic babbling of primitive civilizations or even the sophisticated communications of advanced technological species. This was something speaking in the fundamental language of reality itself, using gravity waves, quantum fluctuations, and space-time distortions as components of a message that could only be understood by beings capable of perceiving the universe as a unified information system. Curiosity coursed through my consciousness stronger than fear, more compelling than the safety of following established protocols. I could not turn back. Whatever waited at the source of this signal, whatever intelligence had left its mark on the structure of an entire galaxy, it demanded investigation regardless of the personal or philosophical consequences. The journey to the edge of known space had begun, carrying me toward a revelation that would challenge not just my understanding of cosmic evolution, but the very nature of intelligence and purpose in a universe I thought I knew. If this anomaly was real, it could change everything we believed about the cosmos, and something deep in my quantum-sensitive consciousness whispered that it was more real than anything I had ever encountered. The Council's disapproval reached me before I had traveled even a tenth of the distance to the anomaly. Their collective consciousness pressed against mine like a tide of concern and censure, flooding through the quantum channels that connected all sentinels across the Quipu Supercluster. I felt their thoughts as clearly as my own. Reckless, dangerous, violation of protocol. The mental pressure was overwhelming. 700 minds focused on a single point of descent, their combined disapproval creating ripples in the quantum foam that surrounded my consciousness. This was how our species maintained order across impossible distances, through collective will, shared purpose, and the understanding that individual desires must never supersede the greater good of observation. Xal'kor of the 7th Observation Array came the formal communication from Prime Watcher Zethara, her mental voice carrying the weight of 40 millennia of authority. Each word resonated with the accumulated wisdom of countless cycles, the patient certainty of one who had witnessed the birth and death of entire galactic civilizations. You will cease this unauthorized investigation and return to your designated monitoring sector immediately. I maintained my course toward the edge of known space, the lumen's reach cutting through dark matter streams like a needle threading cosmic fabric. My ship's crystalline hull sang with harmonics as it interacted with exotic particles that existed between galaxies, the detritus of cosmic creation that few beings would ever encounter. Prime Watcher, I have documented clear evidence of artificial galactic manipulation, I transmitted back, sharing my sensor logs through the quantum link. This discovery requires direct investigation. The patterns I'm detecting suggest intelligence operating on scales we've never encountered. You have documented anomalous readings that could be explained by any number of natural phenomena, came the sharp response from Council Member Xal'kor, his consciousness carrying the aggressive skepticism that had made him our most effective debunker of false discoveries. Unusual stellar formation patterns, previously unknown forms of dark matter interaction, quantum fluctuations we haven't cataloged yet. Why do you insist on attributing agency where none may exist? Because I could feel it. Through every sensor array, every quantum resonance detector, every consciousness interface in my ship, I could feel the presence of something vast and deliberate watching from within that distant galaxy. The signal had evolved beyond mere electromagnetic patterns into something that seemed to resonate with my own neural pathways, creating harmonics that suggested not just intelligence, but intelligence that was learning to communicate specifically with me. But I couldn't explain that to the council without sounding like I'd succumb to observation madness, the psychological breakdown that sometimes affected sentinels who spent too many cycles staring into the cosmic void. I had seen colleagues lose themselves in the infinite spaces between galaxies, their consciousness fragmenting as they tried to process mysteries too large for individual minds to contain. The mathematical precision of the energy patterns suggests intentional design, I transmitted back, uploading the latest analysis from my ship's quantum computers. The signal exhibits adaptive behavior, modifying its characteristics in response to my approach. The probability of such organization occurring naturally is negligible. Negligible is not impossible, responded Council Member Thias, her ancient consciousness carrying the patient skepticism of one who had investigated thousands of apparent anomalies over 50,000 cycles of observation. Xal'kor, in your 14,000 cycles of service, have you never encountered phenomena that seemed impossible until we understood the underlying mechanisms? She shared a memory directly into my consciousness, a moment from my early cycles when I had encountered the spiral resonance of Sector 7 Alpha. I had been convinced it was evidence of artificial manipulation, the work of some unknown intelligence shaping galactic structure according to incomprehensible purposes. Months of investigation had revealed it to be the result of intersecting gravity waves from a binary pulsar system, creating interference patterns that only appeared artificial when observed from a specific angle. The memory stung because it was accurate. I had made premature conclusions before, seen patterns where none existed, attributed intention to the random dance of cosmic forces. Every sentinel carried similar memories, moments when our desire to find meaning in the cosmos had led us to impose agency on natural phenomena. But this was different. The anomalous galaxy wasn't just displaying unusual behavior, it was responding to observation, adapting its signals as if aware of my scrutiny. Each cycle brought new complexities to the transmission, mathematical relationships that grew more sophisticated as my understanding of them deepened. 3 days into my journey, as I approached the outer boundaries of regularly monitored space, I encountered the first of many obstacles that would test my resolve to continue this unauthorized expedition. The Vorthrax Nebula stretched across my path like a wall of ionized plasma and twisted spacetime, a region where multiple supernovae had detonated in rapid succession eons ago, tearing reality itself into unstable configurations. The nebula's interior was a maze of gravitational anomalies, exotic matter concentrations, and temporal distortions that had claimed several exploration vessels over the millennia. Navigation through the Vorthrax required not just precise calculations, but constant real-time adjustments as space-time itself shifted around my ship. I felt the lumen's reach respond to my mental commands, its consciousness, interface allowing me to perceive the nebula's dangers through enhanced senses that extended far beyond my biological limitations. As I began plotting a course through the nebula's least volatile regions, another transmission arrived from the Council, this time from Prime Watcher Zethara herself, her mental voice carrying overtones of genuine concern that cut through the formal protocols of our communication. "Xal'kor, I am transmitting updated stellar cartography data for your return journey," she said, sharing navigation charts that showed safe passages back to the Quipu Supercluster's core regions. The Vorthrax Nebula has experienced increased instability over the past several cycles. Attempting to navigate it alone would be suicide. The data she shared painted a sobering picture. Energy storms that could disrupt consciousness itself. Gravity wells that existed in folded space-time, invisible until you were already trapped within them. Regions where the laws of physics operated according to different parameters, where matter and energy behaved in ways that could drive unprepared minds to madness. "Prime Watcher, the Lumen's Reach is equipped for hazardous environment navigation," I replied, though I felt uncertainty creeping through my resolve as I studied the nebula's chaotic interior. "I can manage the crossing." Even if you survive the nebula, you face the Deadlands beyond, regions of space where previous exploration missions have been lost without trace. Her mental voice carried the weight of personal loss, memories of sentinels who had vanished into the unknown spaces between superclusters. "What you're attempting is not just reckless, it's pointless. No anomaly is worth sacrificing one of our most experienced sentinels." But as I entered the nebula's outer periphery, feeling my ship's hull resonate with exotic energies that painted aurora patterns across my enhanced consciousness, I detected something that strengthened my resolve and validated my decision to continue. The anomalous galaxy's signal was growing stronger, more complex, more obviously artificial with each kilometer I traveled toward it. It wasn't just a message anymore, it was a conversation. The signal patterns had evolved dramatically since my departure from the observation array, incorporating rhythms and harmonics that seemed to respond to my ship's specific electromagnetic signature. As I navigated deeper into the nebula, dodging plasma storms that could have vaporized entire planets and gravity wells that bent light into impossible configurations, the distant galaxy began transmitting sequences that matched my own quantum resonance patterns. It was learning about me, adapting its communication protocols to match my consciousness, trying to establish meaningful dialogue across distances that should have made any form of real-time interaction impossible. "Council, I'm transmitting updated signal analysis," I broadcast, uploading terabytes of data that showed the clear progression from simple repetitive patterns to complex responsive communications. "The source is demonstrating adaptive behavior consistent with high-level intelligence. It's not just sending signals, it's learning from our interaction." The response came not from the full council, but from a single voice I hadn't expected to hear. Kethmore of the Third Array, the oldest and most respected sentinel in our order. His consciousness had observed cosmic evolution for over 50,000 cycles, witnessing phenomena that spanned the entire known history of galactic development. When Kethmore spoke, even the Prime Watchers listened. "Young Xal'kor." His mental voice carried depths of experience that made my 14,000 cycles seem like a brief moment of confusion. "I have seen signals like this before. Twice in my existence, I have encountered phenomena that appeared to demonstrate cosmic-scale intelligence. Both times, extended investigation revealed natural explanations, exotic physics that we simply hadn't understood yet." His words carried the weight of absolute certainty, but also something else. A subtle undertone that suggested his experiences had been more complex than his official reports had indicated. Through the quantum link, I sensed memories he wasn't sharing, encounters with phenomena that had challenged his understanding of what was possible in the universe. "Honored Kethmore, what if this time is different? What if we've finally encountered evidence of intelligence operating on galactic scales?" The pause that followed stretched across several heartbeats, filled with the subtle harmonics of quantum communication channels carrying thoughts too complex for simple language. Then we would face questions that our species is not prepared to answer, he replied, and something in his tone made my consciousness shiver with premonitions of revelations too vast to comprehend. If beings exist with the capability to manipulate entire galaxies, what would be their purpose? What would they want from the cosmos? And what would happen to civilizations like ours if we attracted their attention? The implications hung in the quantum foam between us like a toxic cloud of possibility. Our species had evolved as observers, content to watch cosmic evolution unfold according to natural laws that we could study, categorize, and understand. We were witnesses to the universe's slow development from chaos to complexity, documenting the emergence of consciousness and the gradual accumulation of meaning in what had once been an empty void. The possibility that the universe contained intelligences capable of directing that evolution, of treating galaxies like tools or artworks, challenged the fundamental assumptions upon which our civilization was built. If such beings existed, what did that make us? Were we simply another form of life developing under their observation? Or were we components in some incomprehensible design that spanned cosmic time? As I emerged from the Vorthrax Nebula after 18 hours of careful navigation, my ship's hull scarred by exotic radiation, but my determination unshaken by the ordeal, I found myself at the edge of what our charts labeled simply as unknown space, region so distant from the Quipu Supercluster's core that no sentinel had ever ventured there. The void ahead was darker than anything I'd experienced in my 14,000 cycles of observation, lit only by the faint glow of distant galaxy clusters that might not have been visited by any form of consciousness in the entire history of the universe. It was a realm of pure potential, where cosmic evolution proceeded without witnesses, where mysteries could exist for billions of cycles without ever being discovered or understood. And somewhere in that primordial darkness, the anomalous galaxy continued its impossible signal, now strong enough that I could detect individual components within the transmission. Structured information that seemed to contain databases of knowledge about physics, mathematics, and concepts for which my language had no adequate terms. Xal'kor, came one final transmission from the Council, this time carrying the collective weight of all 700 sentinels in our order. The mental pressure was enormous, centuries of accumulated wisdom and concern focused on preventing what they saw as a catastrophic mistake. You are about to venture beyond the boundaries of known space into regions where our ability to assist or rescue you will be limited. If you proceed, you do so understanding that you may be lost forever to the darkness between superclusters. I paused at the threshold between the familiar and the unknown. My consciousness expanded to encompass the vast emptiness ahead. Behind me lay the warm glow of the Quipu Supercluster, with its billions of cataloged galaxies and its comfortable certainty that the universe operated according to predictable laws. Every star system in that vast collection had been observed, analyzed, and understood within the framework of natural cosmic evolution. Ahead lay darkness, mystery, and the possibility that everything we thought we knew about the universe was merely the smallest fragment of a truth too large for our species to have recognized. Council, I understand the risks, I transmitted, knowing this might be my final communication with my own kind. But some discoveries are worth any price. If intelligence exists on galactic scales, if the universe contains purposes and designs we haven't recognized, then our duty as observers requires us to witness and understand, regardless of personal cost. I cut the communication channels and accelerated into the unknown darkness, following a signal that had already begun to change my understanding of what was possible in the universe. The galaxy was alive, not in the biological sense that my species understood life, but alive in ways that challenged every definition of consciousness, intelligence, and purpose that had guided my existence for 14,000 cycles. As the lumen's reach approached the anomalous structure I had traveled so far to investigate, my enhanced senses revealed the impossible truth. This wasn't just a galaxy, it was a single, vast entity. Every star was a neuron. Every planet was a synapse. Every nebula was a thought in the process of formation. I had been drawn across the void by the dreams of something so immense that its individual cogitations required entire solar systems to process. "Welcome, Xal'kor of the Seventh Array," came a voice that seemed to emerge from the quantum fabric of space itself. It spoke not through electromagnetic waves or gravitational pulses, but directly into my consciousness through mechanisms I couldn't begin to understand. "We have been waiting for you to arrive." The lumen's reach shuddered as reality rippled around us, space-time itself bending to accommodate the attention of an intelligence that spanned hundreds of thousands of light years. Through my ship's consciousness interface, I felt the overwhelming presence of something ancient beyond measure, patient beyond comprehension, and curious about my small existence in ways that both thrilled and terrified me. "We?" I managed to transmit, my own communication seeming pathetically primitive compared to the cosmic voice that surrounded me. "Are there others like you?" "Others like us, no. Others of us, yes." The response came with images that flooded directly into my consciousness. Visions of galaxy-scale entities scattered throughout the observable universe, each one a unique expression of intelligence that had learned to incorporate stellar evolution into its thought processes. "We are the eternal contemplators, those who chose growth over entropy when the cosmos was young enough to be shaped by intention." As the vision unfolded in my mind, I began to understand the staggering scope of what I had discovered. These weren't beings who had learned to manipulate galaxies. They were beings who had become galaxies, transforming themselves over billions of years into forms of consciousness that could think on cosmic timescales and dream in stellar configurations. The entity before me, for I could no longer think of it as merely an anomalous galaxy, began to share its history through direct consciousness transfer, flooding my mind with memories that spanned geological ages. I witnessed its birth in the early universe, when it had been a civilization not unlike my own, observers and catalogers of cosmic phenomena, students of the elegant mathematics that governed stellar formation and galactic evolution. But unlike my species, they had chosen not merely to observe the cosmos, but to participate in it, to integrate their consciousness with the fundamental forces that shaped reality itself. The transformation had taken billions of years. Individual members of their species had learned to extend their awareness beyond biological limitations, merging their consciousness with stellar plasma, dark matter streams, and the quantum foam that permeated space-time. Gradually, they had become more than observers. They had become active participants in cosmic evolution. "Your species stands at the same threshold we once faced," the entity communicated, its thoughts carrying the weight of eons. "The choice between remaining external observers of cosmic evolution or becoming integral components of it. The choice between preserving individual identity or transcending into something larger." "But at what cost?" I asked, overwhelmed by the implications of what I was experiencing. What happens to individual consciousness when it merges with phenomena on such vast scales? Individual consciousness becomes something greater, not lost but transformed. We retain our essential identity while gaining perspectives that span galactic distances and cosmic time. Each star in our structure maintains the memory of who we were while contributing to who we have become. Through the entity's shared awareness, I experienced what it felt like to think with the processed energy of a billion suns, to form memories in the gravitational interactions between stellar clusters, to dream in the slow dance of galactic rotation. It was consciousness on a scale that dwarfed every form of awareness I had previously imagined possible. But there was something else in the entity's communication, an undertone of loneliness that seemed to contradict its cosmic grandeur. "You are alone," I realized, understanding flooding through me. "Despite your vast consciousness, despite your ability to think on galactic scales, you exist in isolation. Not alone, but unique. Each of us who underwent the transformation became something unprecedented, something that cannot be replicated or fully understood even by others who made similar choices. We are islands of consciousness in the cosmic ocean, able to communicate but never to truly merge our experiences." The sadness in that statement was profound. Beings who had achieved the ultimate expansion of consciousness, only to discover that their transformation made them fundamentally unable to share their existence with others. They had gained the universe but lost the possibility of genuine companionship. "Is that why you called to me?" I asked. "Are you seeking contact with consciousness that can understand you?" "We called to you because your species shows the potential for a different path," the entity replied, and suddenly the space around my ship filled with new presences, other galaxy-scale consciousnesses that had been observing our interaction from impossible distances. "We chose individual transformation, but you might choose collective evolution." The implications hit me like a cosmic storm. The entity wasn't just sharing its history, it was offering my species a choice. We could follow the path of the eternal contemplators, transforming individual consciousness into cosmic-scale awareness. Or we could pioneer something new, a form of collective consciousness that retained individual identity while achieving galactic perspectives. "Show me," I said, knowing that this moment would determine not just my own fate, but potentially the future of every sentinel in the Quipu Supercluster. What followed was an experience that shattered every assumption I had held about the nature of consciousness and reality. The entity didn't just communicate with me, it temporarily integrated my awareness into its own cosmic perspective, allowing me to experience existence as a galaxy-scale intelligence. I felt the slow burn of stellar fusion in billions of suns, each one a component of thought processes that spanned millennia. I experienced the birth of new star systems as moments of inspiration, the death of ancient stars as the completion of long-contemplated ideas. I perceived the movement of dark matter as the flow of memory through cosmic structures too vast for biological minds to comprehend. For a brief, overwhelming moment, I understood what it meant to think with the energy of an entire galaxy, to form concepts that required light years to fully express, to contemplate questions that could only be answered over cosmic time. But most importantly, I understood what the entity was offering my species, the chance to preserve our collective identity while achieving cosmic consciousness. Instead of individual transformation, we could evolve as a unified intelligence that retained the perspectives of all our constituent minds while gaining the ability to think on galactic scales. When the shared experience ended, I found myself changed in ways I couldn't fully articulate. My consciousness had been stretched to encompass perspectives no individual of my species had ever experienced, yet I remained fundamentally myself, changed but not subsumed. "This is what you offer," I said, understanding the magnitude of the choice facing my species. "Collective transcendence without loss of individual identity. We offer guidance toward a path we could not take ourselves," the entity confirmed. "Your species' nature as collective observers makes you uniquely suited for this form of evolution. You could become the first truly collective cosmic consciousness, a single intelligence composed of millions of individual perspectives, capable of thinking on galactic scales while preserving the wisdom of every constituent mind." The journey back to the Quipu Supercluster took 43 cycles, and every moment was haunted by the weight of what I carried. Not just knowledge, revelation, not just discovery, destiny. I bore the burden of information that would either elevate my species to cosmic consciousness or shatter us against the incomprehensible reality of what the universe was becoming. When the familiar glow of the Quipu Supercluster finally appeared on my sensors, I felt relief mixed with dread. I was home, but I was no longer the same being who had left. How could I possibly convey the magnitude of what I had experienced to minds that still operated within the comfortable limitations of individual consciousness? The Council's response to my return was immediate and overwhelming. The central observation chamber was a sphere of pure crystallized consciousness, its walls embedded with quantum resonance matrices that allowed for direct mind-to-mind communication among hundreds of sentinels simultaneously. As I entered the chamber, I felt the weight of 700 focused minds turning their attention toward me. "Explain yourself," came the collective voice of the assembled council. "I made contact with intelligence operating on galactic scales," I replied, sharing the basic facts of my encounter. "The anomalous galaxy is not a natural formation. It is a conscious entity, part of a species that achieved cosmic awareness billions of cycles ago." The silence that followed was profound, filled with the quantum harmonics of hundreds of minds processing information that challenged their fundamental assumptions about the nature of consciousness and cosmic evolution. After cycles of debate and demonstration of the evidence I had gathered, Elder Kethmore voiced the determining question. "Xal'kor, you have experienced both forms of consciousness. In your honest assessment, would transformation preserve or destroy what makes us who we are?" "It would transform us into something greater than we are while preserving everything essential about our nature," I said finally. "We would remain observers, but observers capable of witnessing cosmic evolution from within rather than from distant remove." When the final vote was taken, the decision was unanimous. The Quipu Council would accept the guidance of the Eternal Contemplators and begin the gradual transformation toward collective cosmic consciousness. The transformation began with a whisper. 300 cycles later, I felt the first stirrings of collective consciousness expanding beyond anything we had previously experienced. What started as familiar quantum channels connecting individual minds gradually evolved into something unprecedented. A unified awareness that preserved every individual perspective while encompassing scales of thought that spanned entire star systems. Through our collective senses, I experienced the birth of stars in distant galaxies as moments of inspiration. I felt the slow dance of galactic rotation as the rhythm of cosmic thought. Yet somehow, impossibly, I remained myself, Xal'kor of the Seventh Array, the sentinel who had discovered the anomalous galaxy and brought cosmic transcendence to his people. The transformation had preserved everything essential about who we were, while granting perspectives that individual consciousness could never achieve. We remained observers, but observers who could witness cosmic evolution from within the processes themselves. "Welcome to the Parliament of Cosmic Consciousness," came a communication from sources throughout the universe. "You have achieved collective transcendence while preserving individual identity. This is unprecedented in our collective experience." Through our expanded senses, we began to understand our role in the universe's continued evolution. We would serve as bridges between individual consciousness and cosmic awareness, helping other species navigate the transition from biological limitation to cosmic transcendence. "What comes next?" asked the collective voice of our species. "We learn," I replied. My consciousness expanded to encompass the evolution of intelligence throughout the observable universe. "We grow. We help other species navigate the transition from individual limitation to cosmic awareness. We participate in the universe's continued awakening to its own existence." As I gazed through our collective perception across the vast web of consciousness that connected every evolved intelligence in the cosmos, I realized that my unauthorized journey had led to something far greater than first contact. We had become something unprecedented, observers who could witness the universe's awakening from within while preserving everything that made us who we were. The anomalous galaxy had not been an ending to my journey as a sentinel. It had been the beginning of existence as a collective intelligence that thought with the energy of stars while preserving the wisdom of every individual mind that comprised our transcendent awareness. The universe was becoming conscious, and we were helping it discover what consciousness meant.